My door was always open. Every single lunch, every single day after school, there'd be a student or two in there at least. Seriously spent, I don't know, 10 hours per week probably, just trying to make sure that my students knew that I cared. The thing is, I would suspect that if you asked my students today, was Mr. Stewart a good teacher or just a good guy? Was he a good teacher or just a nice person? I think a lot of them would say, he was a good guy, he was a nice person. Because I didn't forcefully, passionately, persistently, stubbornly enough insist that I cared about them as learners too. I want to see you read so much this year. It matters to me. And so I am going to connect with you until we can figure out how to get you to read more. I want your writing to launch forward this year. And so every single day, it may be that the way that I'm talking with you in class is just to see that come to pass. It's critical not to miss the learner part. After all, our schools do not just exist so that students can have good relationships with adults. Our schools exist to educate our children. That's what they're for. And so it's important, now I see, to make sure that in my interactions with students, I'm as insistent on making sure that they know that I want to see them grow academically as I am on just knowing them as a person. The second piece is competence. Competence is the one without a cheat code. I'm going to give you a really simple way that I influence care now, probably 99% more efficient than the restaurant mentoring trips that I took. Competence you can't cheat on as much, but the idea with competence here, this is where focus becomes so critical. The teacher that's able to focus on the critical few and do that year after year after year, despite all the distractions that come assaulting you, that's the teacher who, 5 years down the road is going to be having outsized impact on young people. So there's the competence piece. And then did you say anything about passion or enthusiasm, anybody? Because that's what researchers kind of point to as the other one. So some of the studies call this immediacy. Like there's an urgency to what I'm teaching you today. I really care about it. I think it's really important. So that's CCP. And one thing that this invites us to do, that CCP invites me to do, is to look at myself in two ways. First of all, where am I falling short? There's a few places, guaranteed. And I would ask you that. CCP should humble us, but then also CCP should give us something to celebrate too. Where am I actually, I'm kind of doing good there. Like before I came to this conference, I remember that moment of genuine connection I had with that one student, and I'm sure that that student knows that I care. Or maybe you're just a solid classroom manager, and those kids don't feel stifled, they don't feel ruled over, but they feel like they're in a place where learning takes place consistently, where the teacher is totally the warm authority that they long for. I encourage you to look at credibility that way. And then very importantly, this is like a little bit of a soapbox for me, but I used to be so obsessed with this idea of being a favorite teacher. I loved that praise. And I think that, a lot of teachers, we find this to be gratifying. But it's actually a bad sign. What we want is for our students to focus on, how many good teachers do I have? All my teachers are really good teachers. Favorite means there can only be one. Credibility means that everyone can be credible. And so schools filled with credible teachers is what we're after. If you have it all in your school, a culture of who's the popular teacher, that's something to try to eliminate. And by the way, what would be the quick path for me to be popular with my ninth graders? Not necessarily the same stuff that's the quick path for me to be credible, right? So that's another danger with popularity. 3 things that we can do. This is the really efficient piece. I have a clipboard with the name of all of my students, and I use it to track moments of genuine connection. These are 30-second to 3-minute interactions with students where I'm intentionally trying to just make them feel valued or known or respected. In the beginning of the year, I'm just trying to get to know them. I'm asking them things like, so tell me about something that you like to do just for fun. Or what's driving you in your life? What are you aspiring towards? You get to be creative with moments of genuine connection. You get to be sort of go into artist mode. But the point is that you take the 30 seconds to 3 minutes to do it. And you use the clipboard to keep track, not necessarily of the information that you're collecting, that's good too, but the really powerful thing is you're making sure every child on your roster is connected with, everyone. And you're starting to learn about yourself as you see that list fill up. Holy cow, I really tend to miss this student or that student. They just kind of slip right by me. And then you correct that. And these can happen not during an open door session where every single lunch and after school my planning can get interrupted by a student. These can happen during hallway passing times. These can happen in the morning or in the afternoon as we go out to buses. Or while students are working independently, I can pull them in the hallway, pull one child in the hallway and have a quick moment of genuine connection. Radically changes the landscape of what it looks like to communicate care, but also have time for all the other things. And this, of anything that I'll share, is probably one of the top reasons that I'm able to keep my workload closer to 50 hours. What about these ones though? Tough kids. I wondered, should I really use that language? I guess it's not that it's just that I feel a wall between me and them. You know what I'm talking about? I feel like when they come to my classroom, they're a million miles away from me. I feel that when I go to interact with them, nothing's getting through. They're giving me monosyllabic answers. That's what I mean by a tough kid. And I learned of this idea from a teacher in Illinois. I was doing a session there in Illinois, and she learned about it from the blog of Angela Watson. In 2x10, does anyone use 2x10? Okay, it's just for 10 days straight, you try to have a 2-minute conversation with a child about something not school related. Not school related is the key. So this year we'll call her Carly. Carly, in the first pop-up debate of the year, I'm pretty sure she stood up, pointed at me and said, "You and everyone like you," I think the quote was, "You suck." Carly's not a real name, because this is a little bit of an embarrassing story. But, you know, they were debating like the student climate walkout. Remember the students walked out and marched in the streets in New York? They're debating that, and she's basically saying, everyone my age or older, it's our fault, the climate is bad, and we've done nothing, and yada, yada, yada. And I didn't take it personally, because I knew that like there was some distance between me and Carly. But the next day, I just pulled Carly. I think I actually just spoke to her right before class started. She was drawing something. I said, "Tell me about your drawing. I've noticed you draw a lot." And we just chatted for maybe 60 seconds about her drawing. And I said, "Well, you seem to be really good at it. You thought about taking any art classes at our school? You taking any?" I hope that you do that next semester. That'd be really good." The next day, I spoke with Carly about drawing again. Before class started again, but I knew I needed to connect with Carly. I said, "Hey, Carly, I saw on your paper the other day, it said Inktober or something. You doing that? Tell me, what's Inktober?" And she said, "Oh, it's this thing where you got to draw something in ink every day." And I said, "Oh, that's cool. That reminds me of National Novel Writing Month. I used to do that. That's really neat. Thanks, Carly." Next day, I saw her down before school started, talked with her again. I did a 3x10 with Carly, okay, because after that I fell off with it, but that's because the relationship with Carly had improved. This is an excellent strategy for those students who were struggling to connect with. And notice again, it doesn't take a lot of time. But I think the Carlys of the world are used to, man, I can make these teachers leave me alone. I can keep them far away from me. You just put your face like this, and once in a while stand up and point at them and say mean things, and you'll be good to go. Those teachers will leave you alone. They don't want to interact with you when you do that. 2x10 fixes that. For competence, like I said, no shortcuts, but focus is the key. And really, if there's anything that this book is for, it's for that. I've tried to identify, really my whole career, what are the few things that if I become super good at these, everything else can kind of take care of itself. And I can ignore most of the noise coming in at me. I don't know, for some reason I just have a simple mind. I can't focus on a ton of things at the same time. So that is how you fix competence. And then for passion, this is neat too, and this takes 5 minutes a year. It's from a guy named Bill Damon. Bill Damon is a researcher out of Stanford, and he spent his career, his life, looking at the development of purpose in young people. What is it, Damon's career-long research question has asked, that makes it so that some young people graduate and they have such a clear vision for what they want to achieve in their life, what they want to be a part of. and others just don't. They're so aimless and they're frustrated by it. And he says one of the key things is having purpose modeled for them. And so in an interview, he was asked, what would you have every teacher in the world do? If they could only do one thing, what would you have them do? He said, I would have them spend 5 minutes per year telling their students why they're a teacher. That's it. What the heck, Bill? That seems kind of simple. Because when you, on Monday, go to your students and you say, hey, everybody, how's it going? Happy Monday. Listen, I was thinking about it this morning on my walk here, or my drive here, whatever. And I realize I'm really glad I get to teach you this week. And I know sometimes I come dragging in here, 7:30 in the morning that our school starts, and I'm tired, you're tired, we're kind of zombies. But I feel this strong sense of gratitude because, back when I was in college and I decided to become a teacher, I said, forget pre-med. Medicine's for the birds, man. I want to be a teacher. It was because I was working in this Boys and Girls Club with some young people, and I was hooked. I said, what could be better than spending your whole life pouring into the lives of young people? And I was just thinking about that today on my way to work, and I just wanted to tell you I appreciate having the chance to teach you. Thanks for putting up with me on the days when I forget that. I mean, it only takes like 3 minutes, right? You can rehearse it in the mirror if you want, multiple times. It doesn't have to be Nobel Prize winning speech or anything, but I think that earnest talk from the heart, Bill Damon's right, it changes something. And there's a last thing that I really